Welcome to the Beyond the Craft podcast, your gateway to the world behind the scenes of creativity and talent. I'm Kevin McRae, the creative director and founder of Revenant, where we breathe life into concepts through the art of animation. And alongside me is my cousin Keith, the founder and director of Breakout Recruitment, whose expertise spans the realms of talent acquisition and industry innovation. Together, we are embarking on a journey to uncover the hidden gems, untold stories, and invaluable lessons within our respective fields. Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring creative soul, our goal is to provide a unique blend of experiences, knowledge, and insights that will trigger your passion and fuel your journey. Through candid conversations and shared wisdom, we invite you to join us as we navigate the ever-evolving landscapes of animation and recruitment. Our hope is that you'll not only find inspiration in our discussions, but also practical advice that you can apply to your own endeavors. Welcome to Beyond the Craft, Episode 4, Health and Well-Being, chapter headings with descriptions. Comparing physical challenges with professional stress. We'll examine the parallels between physical exertion and workplace pressures. Motivations behind physical fitness. Understanding what drives individuals to pursue fitness goals.
Where do you want to start?
Where do we want to start? Ooh, maybe I can start as to why I got into the physical part of this. And it wasn't because of work. It was because I was getting fat. So played football for many years, as you know. And
when did you get fat?
I don't actually, you know what I can tell you is when I moved to the Netherlands and I was staying with the in-laws. And so my in-laws, of course, are from Vietnam. The mother-in-law, I mean, she really loves to cook, but she does these amazing chicken wings. But I'm sure she marinades it in like a ton of salt and a ton of sugar. I'm not sure what it was, but I would eat these things like they were going out of fashion. That plus, you know, my Western diet, I was eating loads of rice and then noodles. And then the brother-in-law, he was introducing me to, you know, like durums. It's like it's an amazing kebab, right? Chicken kebab. And then you just drown it in garlic sauce. So this was like my life for a couple of years. That and Diet Coke. And I think I must have ballooned. I must have put on like 5 or 6 kilos.
No way.
In those 2 years. Yeah. And so eventually we got our own place and we moved out. And I thought, holy crap, you know, I need to do something. It was the point where I had this barber's jacket and, you know, I put it on. And when I originally bought it, the zip would go up no problem. But then, you know, you're zipping it up this time. And you actually feel the jackets fighting to keep you in.
Yeah.
So I thought at that point, it's like, holy shit, I need to do something.
Do you know when with me, when I start to get a little overweight, it's like my sides. Like I hate that. Like, you know,
these little donut things.
Yeah,
the
just
little
like
love handle.
just above your hips. Like, especially when you're kind of sitting down. And then I kind of realized like I need to go to the gym, kind of lose some weight.
That was my point. So.
But yeah, they were kind of fattening you up. Basically.
They were. I don't know what they were planning, but you know, she was a feeder, that's for sure. But so, you know, good times. But then, so I started running, and I still remember to this day my first 5K run. I think I did it in the summer, and I actually had salt patches. You know, the salt sweat patches that you'd normally get after an ultra. I had them after 5K, and that's when I thought, all right, now I need a personal trainer, and I got a running coach, and then I got into the, you know, did my first marathon. You know.
When was this?
Partially died.
5 years ago?
So the first marathon I
actually,
did was 2014 or something.
Yeah, because we did the Coast to Coast in 2013, and that was the first race that I had ever done.
So that must have been right at the same time for me. And then I think the year after I did the Amsterdam Marathon, then the year after
it was the same year.
It was the same year.
It was the same year that you did the New York Marathon, because remember,
2015 then I think.
We both did the ballot to get in, and you got in, and I didn't.
Yes. There's only room for one McRae in that race.
Guide. Absolute guide.
That's a great race, by the way. It really was phenomenal. But yeah, the coast, I forgot about the Coast to Coast. Great first day. Remember that? What was a run and then the cycle. It was kayak. We did the kayak as well.
It was a 7-mile run from Nairn through the woods. It was quite a nice run. Yeah. And then it was rapid to get changed. Remember to get on the bike.
Oh yeah.
And then to get off, and then there was a little hill start. And then it was 50 miles, wasn't it, on the bike?
Yeah.
And then it was just a token kind of kayak thing at the end, just across, or was it?
An out and back or something?
Out and back on Loch Ness. It was like, 20 minutes?
Something like
that. And then it was just a speed burst run to the
halfway point. To the halfway checkpoint. I still remember that because I remember I'd got that bike specifically for the race, and then the second day it absolutely lashed it down from beginning to end. I remember that. And the brakes failed on my bike. And we're off-road going downhill. And then I actually had to use my feet like Fred Flintstone. And I'd actually scraped away the bottom of my cycling shoe because the brakes wouldn't work.
That was like the last 15 miles or something like that.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Coming into Fort William. Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. I thought I was going to die.
I thought you were joking when you told me that. And then you had to hold on to me. It was like the Goonies. You know, it was like that bit in the Goonies where he's holding on to his hand and then he lets go and he goes flying into the woods.
Yeah, it was. That was nasty. And then we had to do the run, right? And then they cancelled the kayak because the weather was too bad.
Yeah.
That's typical Scotland, though.
That day was horrendous because you were just wet right through like the whole day.
I think we trumped that day when we did the Ring of Steel for the first time.
When was that? 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was the one where we got up to the top of the peaks. You were ahead of Bob and I, but visibility was like minimal. And then you're running along the ridge, or you're not running, sorry. You're clambering along the ridge. And you don't remember there was
scrambling. Yeah,
and there was 2 people in a bivvy.
I remember.
Because one of them got injured.
Somebody broke their leg.
Broke their leg. So you could hear the helicopter through the clouds.
I know, because somebody said to me at the top of the mountain, we were like, is that a helicopter? And you could hear just woof, 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 the blades like through the mist.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, that's not a helicopter, surely.
It was, and then I heard as well at the end of the race that the helicopter couldn't land.
Yeah.
Because the visibility was so bad. That's one of my best pictures, actually, is a photographer at the top of one of the peaks. So as you're climbing up, he's snapping people's mug shots.
That's right.
And I remember my jacket failed. Both jackets failed. Gloves failed. Soaked to the bone. Freezing.
I remember asking one of the photographers at the top of the mountain, I was like, how many more ridges is there to go? He was like, just over that one. And then it's all the way downhill to the finish line. I was like, great. Thank the Lord. Like, I remember getting over the ridge and then seeing another ridge and cursing at the guy, like, and it wasn't just like
that was like Mordor, wasn't it? Is that not the one where you came down and you thought, I'm done?
And then you just seen this
grim
black,
sort of summit ahead of you. And
but then you were like, I remember being stood there going, there's nothing you can do. You just got to keep on going.
No, exactly. Can't turn back now.
It's like you can't just go to McDonald's or say, no, I'm done. I'm just
That is the thing. Taking part in those sort of events really helped with my business, actually. If you can handle that kind of punishment and just get yourself through it, like 9 hours. I did a race in Spain that was like 13 or 14 hours, something like this. Actually, when you're going through a rough day, it's not as bad when you've done something like that. And you've actually taken yourself to the brink where you want to not necessarily throw yourself off the mountain, but you would conceivably throw a hissy fit. I mean, you do get very short with people when you're running these type of races and you're that low. But I think I don't know how it is for you, but for me, getting through tough days or tough weeks, I mean, they're hard, of course, but that seems to make it just a little bit easier. The fact that you know what you can endure before you actually get to that sort of physical and mental breaking point. So I think that kind of training has helped me a lot, I got to say. But I don't know.
In those positions that you can kind of push through and you can always go further than you think you can. We didn't have a choice, of course, but you do have it there. We were talking about this earlier. Like, I would rather run at the train kind of head on, knowing what was coming, than kind of like put my head in the sand and wait for the impact.
I think that's something that I've developed over time as well. As you say, you just have to go for it, right? Bite the bullet. I suppose it helps you manage the outcome, or you have a little more control then, or perceived control over the situation if you're tackling it first. But yeah, I think...
well, then you can assess, and you can start to be a bit more strategic about how you move forward or where you position yourself or like how you pivot, knowing the situation kind of better once you've got all the information available to you, rather than sort of like sticking your head in the sand, waiting for the sort of impact. And then it's just a catastrophe. It's just a mess, and you don't know what to pick up where and how it's going to progress.
Yeah.
Exploring the 5 a.m. routine, the morning routine, embracing the early hours and discovering the benefits of starting the day at dawn.
But then I suppose we should really discuss a little bit about, it's health and well-being, right? So how that kind of works for us on a personal and professional level. I mean, you're at the moment reading, what is it, Rob Sharma?
Robin Sharma.
Robin Sharma, 5 a.m. Club.
Well, I'm listening to his audiobooks because I recently listened to a podcast where he was being interviewed, and it was the High Performance podcast on Apple. And it's a great podcast. It's really good, but I found it really insightful, just some of the takeaways. And then I started to listen to some of his audiobooks.
For note, Kev is still trying to get up at 5 a.m.
I can get up at 5 a.m. I'd probably say like 5:30 is a little bit easier. But
mentally, yeah.
But in that podcast, Robin Sharma was talking about like how 4 a.m. is a sweet spot, and I was like, "This is getting ridiculous."
I've been hearing this now.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you see these shorts on YouTube now, and people are talking about 4 a.m. But it's just turning into a competition now. Oh, I don't need any sleep. 4 hours sleep, that's all I need. Midnight to 4 a.m. Sleep for losers. Shut up. You obviously don't have 2 young kids, you know.
But even talking about these kind of ultra marathons and things, you know, like, and events that everyone kind of does these days. And the Hyrox is obviously the new one, which you're big into.
Yeah.
But like back in the day, like when I was like, not back in the day, just a few years ago, when I was like 18, like
a few years ago, yeah.
There was none of that. There was no rat race stuff. There was no like, you know, it wasn't as easy to kind of like book yourself in for one of these. And there was no Hyrox, obviously.
No.
Not that I can remember.
We'd maybe need to get some boomers on to the show to ask them a little bit about how it was back in the old days, you know, in the rat race. Because, yeah, I suppose we have far more visibility now. Everything seems to be a competition now.
But even like, if you look at old footage of rugby players, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, they just looked like regular guys. Like, you know.
That's the same as footballers.
But then you look at them now and they're just like huge. It's like the gladiators. You know,
but that's also because of commercial aspects, right? I mean, their salaries and fans and everything's just gone through the roof there. But I mean, coming back to that 5 a.m. part, I mean, do you see a benefit?
I do.
You do?
I do enjoy it. It's hard to get out of bed, I think. But then as soon as I'm up, it only takes like 5 minutes. And then I get outside, do my Rick Rubin, you know, get outside as soon as you possibly can. Naked if possible.
Luckily you've got nobody looking over your back garden.
And that definitely kind of helps. My dad used to say like splash some water on your face, you know, just like some cold water just to kind of help wake you up. I took the dogs out the other morning at 5 a.m. There was some runners out and it was really nice. Stuck a podcast on, just let the dogs off the leads and they just took off. Yeah, and it was great.
It is a beautiful time of the day.
It is.
Really?
Well, at this time of year, in June, or not June, May.
True. I mean,
it's nice.
Pros and cons. I mean, I did that 5 a.m. like I was telling you earlier when Nina was about 3 years old. And so I got into the routine. And once I eventually got into it, like you said, it was super hard in the beginning, right? Alarm would go off at 5 and before you know it was like 20 to 6, 10 to 6, something like that. Eventually got into it. But those 2 hours were fantastic. I mean, just for the headspace that you actually have at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
You know, because I think at the end, you've gone through the family life, you've gone through your work life, you've gone through your business, you've dealt with different things as we spoke about. Eventually you get your kids to bed after a little fight. You're just done. But in the morning, it's like a huge breath of fresh air. Everybody's sleeping. Nobody's demanding anything from you at that time. You're in complete control until somebody wakes up.
So we should just tell the listeners for context. I've got 2 little boys, 4 and 8, and you have...
Yeah, and I've got 2 girls, 5 and 18 months, and the 18-month-old's in a sleep regression at the moment. So that's great.
Happy times.
Happy times. But yeah, that was something I'd worked on with my coach, because I always thought that 5 a.m. just sounds super early, doesn't it? If you're used to getting up, I mean, I was, like, before kids and everything, was like 7:30.
And even
that felt early.
Was early. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but this 5 a.m. thing it was a bit of a revolution for me. And I'm trying to get back into it now, but of course it's a little tricky with the youngest situation. But just, as I said, that headspace and being able to read and take the information in, it was also amazing. But then also using the time for, if I had some things I wanted to clear off my desk, then taking an hour and just getting those first sort of emails out or timing them to go out at a certain time.
Just get ahead of the game.
Yeah, and so before the day has even started, you've already tackled some personal things or professional things, and it just made the rest of the day a little more manageable, to be honest. It's like they say that the first thing you should do when you get out of bed is make your bed. So it's like you've ticked one thing off.
Sure.
You've accomplished something for the day. So those 2 hours were really kind of great for that. And I think last year as well, I tried to mix it in with the ice plunge or the cold bath plunge. And that was also great, but I can't do it anymore.
What's the system? Do you have to get up and go straight in the ice plunge, or are you meant to wait? When do you have a shower? Like, do you have a shower before or after the ice plunge?
That's also the thing.
Because then you want to heat yourself up, but then But
they say you lose the effect of it then.
Right.
So I think when I started doing it, it was like beginning of the year last year. I think I was showering afterwards, but not until a good sort of 15, 20 minutes after I'd gotten out. I think ideally you're not supposed to shower. So you're supposed to have the effects through the day. And I think they even suggest it if you struggle to sleep, is to do a cold plunge before you go to bed. Because it kind of, I don't know if it sort of resets the central nervous system, the immune system. So it just kind of flushes you out. You're not very zen-like when you get in the beginning. But I must admit, I was able to get up to 5 minutes at one point. And you do have this weird calmness.
What was the temperature? 5 minutes?
Oh, that was about 2 degrees.
Jesus.
I can't do that now, though. I've got a new cold tub and I've been in it once. I just can't bring I don't know. I mean, it took about 8 weeks to get to that point, and that was almost like every couple of days getting into the tub.
But with your new tub, you can regulate the sort of temperature. So
yeah, but it makes a hell of a noise. I mean, the neighbors
really?
think I'm running an industrial fridge outside in my back garden, so it's not great. But it's certain thing. I don't feel like I need it at the moment, so it's also kind of tools for the job kind of thing. I think I will try and get back into it, but yeah. That even 10 degrees at the moment is a bit of a fight. I mean, you've got one in your back garden, I noticed, but it looks like it hasn't been used for a little while.
It's not been used. I don't think it's been used this year, to be honest. My wife, Rosie, she was big into it last summer and she was doing it every day, like religiously.
Yeah.
And she did say that she felt the benefits, but then as the sort of darker nights came in and it started to get cold, it was less inviting.
Social dynamics, group activities and their benefits. The positive impact of participating in group fitness activities.
But she has started doing Soulful Sunday. So every Sunday she'll go up to the coast.
Oh, yeah.
And she'll take a group of people into the sea, into the North Sea.
That is supposed to be great for you. That was on a Huberman podcast where he interviewed a PhD candidate who studied, I think it was women in Denmark or Sweden who were doing that on a regular basis. But it wasn't just the physical benefits, right? It's also the social benefits.
Yeah.
Because you're going as a group. I think that's not something I do as a guy. I train usually solo. If it's CrossFit, I mean, there's 11 other people there, but you're focused on yourself. And the trail running is very much me. And then the Hyrox, I did the doubles, of course, but 9 times out of 10, you're training by yourself. But yeah, maybe the women have got it right with that social aspect. Maybe that's why they live longer.
Yeah, I'm the same. I prefer to train like on my own. Although I've signed up to the new gym. I was doing PT at the beginning of the year, but I decided to go to the gym when I came back because I was traveling a lot for work. So I cancelled the PT, and then I thought when I came back, I needed to get into routine again. So I set up the gym, and I thought I'll take advantage of all their classes. So at the moment, I'm doing trying to do as many classes so that I can see what I prefer the most.
Right. Yeah.
HIIT class later today. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'll be in the jacuzzi while you're doing that. With the physical part, I mean, how do you think it helps you manage stress? Or does it? Do you use it as a release, or is it purely fitness? I mean, how does it combine?
I think it's a combination of keeping physically fit, and so that, I feel good, or feel good in my body, I guess. Yeah. And then also mentally, in terms of like getting away from the computer and getting away from phones and mobile devices, and I've got the freedom to kind of go where I want and do what I want to do, and especially when it comes to cardio, and it gives me the headspace to be able to sort of think and let things resonate. And
that's a good one, actually.
And I sometimes come up with my best ideas when I'm out running or I'm cycling. Or
that's an interesting one, because was it who's the English monk? Was it Jay Seshi or something like this?
I'm not sure.
I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he was speaking with a doctor, And you were saying some of the most sort of, the high level individuals, they walk a lot. That's where they do some of their best thinking. It's like phones in the pocket, like you say, and you just walk. You're out in nature, or you walk around the city, and you allow things to come to you. But I struggle to get out from behind my desk during the day. I think it's like FOMO, or, if a client calls or a request comes in, you want to be like straight on it. That I don't allow myself even that moment during the day. So my exercise is always at the beginning of the day where nothing is happening. But I think it makes sense, right? Even if you could get out in the middle of your day just to let things sink in.
I need to take that time away for sure.
Oh, you would.
Because otherwise I'd just burn out, I think.
Smash everybody's computer, tell them to get out.
No, not in that way. I just overthink. But I also like to, if something happens at work, then I want to be able to react to it and respond and fix things or find a solution as soon as possible. But at the same token, I also like to get out and have that sort of headspace away from the computer.
Makes sense to create the space sometimes, doesn't it? It's easy to knee jerk, I suppose, into a situation, that sort of fight or flight. But then if you take that opportunity to kind of step back and let it simmer and collect your thoughts and,
if I'm having to write like a sensitive sort of email, then I'll write it and then go for a walk and then come back and look at it again. And 9 times out of 10, I'll either delete that email or I'll rewrite it completely.
I can understand that. I might have to do that a little more often. I mean, when I'm thinking back, I do often find myself in that situation where if I'm at the offer stage with a candidate and we're doing negotiations between the two of them, and sometimes it gets a bit back and forth, and because you're in the middle, you're just like, come on, just make a decision. Yeah, I often then find myself, if it's sunny outside, I'll take myself out into the back garden and just sit in the sun for 5 minutes with my eyes closed. And then, because I did that actually recently this week with an offer that we're working on at the moment. And then it's funny how then you really start, when you slow down, right? And then the thought process is a little more aligned. And then you start thinking of, okay, actually I can tackle it from this direction and advise in this situation and things like that. And it's actually, that really helped me this week. But again, it was sunny. So I don't know if I would have got
Makes a difference for sure.
It does. Yeah.
I have thought about sort of introducing meditation in some form, but I just don't know if I have the belief that it would work. I feel like I would need to sort of immerse myself in meditation and truly believe it to be able to accept it for it to work.
The only time I've been able to shut off my mind is getting into the ice tub. You can't think about anything else other than not getting out.
Well, you were saying like when you were doing your CrossFit, you can't think of anything else because you're either throwing a bag or lifting a weight.
That is exactly right. Because when you're doing cardio, when you're on the bike or you're on the treadmill, or even when you're out running, you still have the thoughts coming to you. So sometimes you can't escape it. I mean, you'll run through your day, or you'll run through the day ahead, or a situation that happened. But at the CrossFit, or maybe you'll also find it with your HIIT training, it's survival, right? So you're just like, it's like 30, 40 minutes where you're only thinking about the next exercise, or you're only thinking about catching your breath, or, and that is quite a bit of a reboot, actually, because sometimes when you're on the treadmill, because you listen to a podcast, you might listen to music, you still have the thoughts running through your head. You can't really escape it. So maybe, for me, the CrossFit is a source of meditation.
The CrossFit and the HIIT class is definitely much more psychological, I'd say, because you're thinking about the time and the clock and how long you've got to do. You're thinking about like how fast you're going, how many repetitions you're doing, and you're competing with yourself. And so, well, I am anyway, because I'm quite stubborn.
It's competing with yourself. Well, that's an interesting one as well in business, right? I think it's changing now. Now that I've been at CrossFit for a little while and I'm starting to improve in certain areas. Before, I would never post my scores, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting posting scores and I'm checking leaderboards. So I'm coming after a few people now. And I think Hyrox kind of unleashed the beast again. I think I was speaking to Nicole about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, is that the trail running races and the ultras were good. They mentally prepared you. You got physically in good condition. It was a nice day out. Sometimes, even though you put yourself through the ringer. Yeah. But the Hyrox, something happened to me about 2/3 of the way through Hyrox where I was ready just to let go. I was like, I was running with the brother-in-law. He was struggling a little bit. And I think we were on the second last lap. And I said, all right, come on, we're going, we're moving. We're going to push this harder. But he couldn't because he cramped up in both calves. But it kind of set something out that I haven't experienced since football. Actually,
it's interesting.
That drive, that competitive edge. So we've got
how does it work? Like, so how many people are doing it at the same time? And like, what is it to do it in the shortest amount of time, or to do the most amount of repetitions? No,
it's the shortest amount. So they stagger the starts. Everybody gets like a start time, and it must be about 50 people start at any one time, perhaps. I'm not sure exactly, but as I say, they stagger it. So they let people out, and then there's a 10-minute break, and then the next group go out. But it's the quickest time.
Right.
So it's 8 kilometers run in total. And then you've got I think it's the 8 sort of stations in between. And you just have to fire through them. I mean,
So is it 1 kilometer, then a station, and then another kilometer and a station?
So if you're doing the full thing, right, if it's just you, what is it? 1 kilometer run, 1 kilometer on the ski machine, a kilometer run, and then it's this sled push. So I think the sled push is like 20, 46, like 80 meters or something like this with 150 kilos. And then run, pull, run. Burpees are the worst. If someone was to say something out of tone to you in the middle of a burpee session, you might kill them. It's it's a bit like that. But and it's become a real big thing. But I can see the appeal is that it doesn't take too long. So for me, I mean, I think the world record is almost like 50 minutes or sub 50 minutes. But I managed to rope Jono into this. I managed to rope my neighbor into it and my brother-in-law. And that's one thing you'll know about me as well. If I do these kind of things, I drag people along with me.
Yeah.
For fits and giggles.
Like
I'm not going to suffer it myself.
Cowboy.
Rodeo. Like exactly. I have a competitive edge, but I think over the years I dulled it down, subdued it somehow, and just gone through the motions also with the business. And I think within recruitment, agency recruitment is supposed to be competitive, but I don't buy into being competitive like with your teammates. So I think that's probably why I kind of buried it. But wow, Hyrox, I was firing on all cylinders. I'm doing Hyrox training classes now. CrossFit's like 2-3 times a week. I'm going to be running with my shirt off come October. I'm going to be taking names.
Nobody wants to see that. Huh?
Everybody wants to see that, Kev. Everybody. There'll be a few jiggly bits. I'm sure, there'll be some move action ongoing there. But no, that's, I think that also helps with me in the business. I think when you lose that little competitive edge, I think it also impacts your business as well. Fun. I look forward to October and, really smashing that course in Amsterdam. But we'll see how it goes.
Alcohol and stimulants, evolving perspectives. We look at how views on alcohol and stimulants are shifting in modern society.
My relationship with alcohol, first off, was I was a late drinker, because I was focused so much on football when I was younger. I think my mates, when they were around, I don't know, even 14, 15, 16, started drinking, but I was concentrating on the football. So I didn't actually really get, let's say, pissed until I was almost like 17 or 18. So I was a late bloomer, considering the fact I'm Scottish and from the Northeast as well, where you can conceivably start at 12 years old if you wanted to. I don't know, the student days were the worst because you remember, the student unions, what is it, £1 vodka Cokes?
It was £1.50 for a double vodka and Coke.
Yeah,
I used to work for the student bar.
Yeah, it was horrific. And, silly enough, I think, I don't know if Jono was there as well. I played pub golf a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
And I actually remember halfway through the course, actually projectile vomiting down a set of steps and then going back into the next bar to finish off the drink. And this was for a good few years. And then we had the exchange trip in Italy. That's where I met my wife. And again, it was the same. You would go out in Milan and you'd get these massive strawberry daiquiri cocktails that were like, 50% rum. And it was like €10 and you just get absolutely blitzed. I don't know where my thoughts changed on that. I think it helps that my wife is almost like, she's teetotal. I used to be drinking during the week, as you would, a glass of wine, a beer, things like that. And then with the business, I think somewhere I might have used it as a little bit of a way to relax. You know, just a couple glasses of wine with dinner, things like that. Friday night, going to have a little something. But maybe over the years, as she wasn't drinking and she wasn't joining me in the drinks, it kind of naturally subsided to the point now where I enjoy the thought of a drink, but I do not enjoy the thought of getting drunk anymore. The clarity of thought that I have now, but also the energy that you have, because hangovers, I think, as you get older as well, they tend to last a day or two, and you're really groggy, and you know you're kind of foggy in the head. And now that you have 2 kids as well, I don't like the idea of not being kind of 100% available for them. But also with work, I think if you're, you know, that was also a recruiter's thing. They would have competitions, right? You'd go out and get smashed on a Thursday night, and you'd be drinking till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody would be coming into the office the next day, and it was like, it was almost a taken. If you didn't join in with those drinks midweek, you were some sort of wuss and things like that. And I don't know, my whole mentality's kind of changed around that. But maybe that's also from living in the Netherlands or in Europe. It's a different approach to alcohol than it is in Scotland as well. But generational, you know, also slightly different.
I think it is a bit generational, if I could say it. Generational. I mean, I've got 2 younger brothers and they're absolutely ripped. They spend all their time at the gym. They're massive, but you know, I can beat them in a race because they can't run because their thighs are so massive.
Rubbing together.
Yeah, exactly.
Causing fire.
But it was like, you know, when we were sort of growing up, it was expected that you would just go to the pub on a Friday or a Saturday night. Like when you were 18, you would get absolutely blitzed, like you said, on Mets and Moscow Mule or whatever was available.
Oh,
like
no, it was
Smirnoff Ice or Orange Hooch or whatever. It was also different mentality when I was working in London, like, and I was in Soho. So most of the drinking was done on a Wednesday and a Thursday because everyone went home on a Friday. Like, people were living in Brighton, or they were living in Milton Keynes or outside the city. Yeah. And it was like after work drinking. So the streets, especially in the summer in Soho, would be absolutely rammed. And it was a great kind of vibe. Like, you know, I quite enjoyed it. Yeah. I think nowadays I don't have the mentality or the drive to think, or look forward to having a drink like at the end of a week. If I want to have a drink, then I'll have a drink. Like, and I don't put any pressure on myself or like, you know, think badly of myself if I do want to have a drink. Like, but I'm very conscious when I do kind of make that decision. For me, I can have a couple of beers and feel satisfied. Yeah. But I couldn't just have one beer. I don't think I need to have a couple.
So there's still a little bit.
I do have to have a couple of beers, I would say, just to kind of relax. But then I feel like I don't need it. It's not like I have like I've got a craving for it or an addiction for it or anything like that. It's more like a social thing. I enjoy, like, you know, sitting outside in the garden and having a glass of wine with like my wife. Like, you know, it's just a nice thing to do. It's nice and social.
Maybe it is our age as well.
But yeah, the thought, especially at our age, of just having that sort of hangover and how it affects your mood the next day, especially with the kids. And I'm just a bit more short fused. I just hate that. That's not the type of dad that
they don't deserve that either. Just because, you can, I don't know if you can, it's not that you can control yourself perhaps, but it is unfair. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Also on yourself. Yeah. Because I remember losing whole weekends. You know, you'd go and get pie-eyed on a Friday night, completely done Saturday.
That was it.
And then Sunday you were just kind of coming to terms with what had happened the day before. And it's like, oh shit, you know, I've got work again. Yeah. On Monday. Yeah.
My mentality has completely changed, I would say.
Do you think it's I'm thinking a little deeper, a confidence thing as well, actually?
Well, maybe. What you're thinking in terms of like a bit of Dutch courage, if you've got to get up and
a little bit. I mean,
talk or whatever.
It's kind of being kind of confident in your own skin, I suppose.
Where does that term come from? Being a man of the Netherlands, Dutch courage.
Dutch courage.
Yeah,
I'm not sure actually. It's something we'll need to find out.
Yeah,
we'll leave that one hanging. We'll bring it into the next episode. We'll have a Q&A for ourselves, but I'll check it out.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was with Robin Sharma, actually, who was saying the word psyche. Was it Andrew, or it might have been Andrew Huberman, but he was saying the word psyche means soul in Greek or Latin.
Okay.
Anyway, I just thought that was fascinating.
That was fascinating. It's good to bring up. But no, with the alcohol and the confidence part, somewhere I thought maybe I needed it when I was younger. and for the socializing aspects, yeah, bring you out your shell a little bit. But I think as I've gotten older and kind of dealt away with the bullshit a little bit, and I'm quite happy with who I am, I found that in social gatherings and, I don't know, networking events, things like that, that I just don't feel I even need that sort of boost anymore. But I don't know if that's coming from confidence or self-assurance or it's trust. I don't know.
It actually goes the opposite way for me, where when I'm at a networking event or a conference, I would rather not drink at all and be completely focused on the conversation and being able to listen to people and actually take in what they're telling me, as opposed to having that drink to have a bit of Dutch courage, shall we say. But then it just like slants your vision on everything. Like I just wouldn't even put myself in that position. I would look forward to maybe having a drink after the conference or after the networking event or something like that, you know, just to kind of bring me down a little bit. But I wouldn't go to a conference and then head straight to the bar, for example.
But how is it in your industry then? I mean, like I said, in recruitment, it really was almost like a lads club where you would, you know, even the incentives, or if anybody was successful with a placement, you know, it was like a bottle of champagne. It was all kind of alcohol driven. And then, as I say, Thursday night, Friday nights, you know, you'd finish work early, you'd all go down to the pub and it was all booze. But I mean, because it's, I suppose, a competitive environment, it's, well, sales, as I like to call it in there, agency recruitment. But for you guys, I mean, it must be, I'd have thought it would be quite similar, creative industry, all these agencies, all these different kind of personalities coming together, and especially your time in London.
I think it's different from when I was in London to how it is now.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the recent conferences that I was at. There was networking kind of events, and we would kind of meet up at a bar.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like pressure to kind of have a drink.
Okay.
Or, you know, to socialize. I think people's vision has sort of changed, if that kind of makes sense.
Maybe their values have also changed.
Exactly. Yeah. Take it or leave it. I don't think there's any pressure there.
No, true. I must admit, if anybody's listening and wants to send a good bottle of white or red wine, it's quite okay. But it'll just sit in my wine fridge for a year. But no. Okay. I think we've covered health and well-being to a certain degree. And I think the next episode 5, we're going to talk a little bit about time management.
Sounds good.
And we'll come back to the answer for the Dutch courage question.
Yes, we should look into that. I'm just fascinated now.
We'll check it out and we'll let you know. And thanks for listening.